There exists a kind of mind the world doesn't quite know what to do with. It doesn't fit the rhythms of commerce, nor does it thrive in conversation. It doesn't dazzle in debate or radiate charm at dinner tables. This mind watches in silence. It listens beyond language. It feels what hasn't yet happened, and often, its greatest burden. It knows too much too soon. This is the mind of the seer, not a magician, not a mystic in robes. A subtle mind, a solitary one. The seer doesn't live in the present, not really. They exist slightly ahead, like a weather vane sensing winds no one else can feel. In stillness, they are flooded with visions, not necessarily images, but meanings. Emergent truths, the symbolic architecture of reality shifting before anyone notices the cracks. People ask them, "What's wrong? Why are you so quiet?" They can't answer in plain words. How do you explain that you're watching something that hasn't happened yet? The seer's mind is built differently. It isn't a tool of logic, nor a collector of facts. It's not a strategist or a scholar. It is an antenna, a living instrument for the unconscious to speak through. But that gift comes at a price. The ordinary world doesn't make room for this kind of cognition. It demands proof, clarity, immediacy. Meanwhile, the seer speaks in riddles, feels in waves, and lives in layers of symbolic resonance. Their truths are not data points. They're visions, insights that erupt, not insights that are built. So they retreat, because they must. Not to run, but to survive. In the quiet, the mind sharpens. The signals grow stronger. They see trajectories unfolding like film reels. A friend's self, destruction months before it surfaces. A nation's unraveling years before headlines catch up. A lover's departure already vibrating through their bones. But no one listens because no one can yet see. This is the curse of the seer, to perceive the shape of things before they take form, and to be ignored for it. So they wait, and they watch. But there is another layer, deeper, more dangerous, because the same mind that can read the future can be devoured by it. You see, perception without grounding becomes a prison. If there is no outlet, no act of expression, no hand extended into the world, the visions curdle. They twist, they consume the seer from within. Suddenly, the antenna becomes a labyrinth. The signal becomes a scream. What once was insight now resembles madness, not because it is false, but because it has nowhere to go. You must understand, the symbolic is like fire. It can illuminate or incinerate, and the seer walks that edge every day. If they mistake their inner visions for objective reality, they inflate. They become messiahs in their minds. Chosen ones, prophets of doom. They become possessed by the very truths they once channeled, and no one around them can reach them anymore. This is the slow collapse, when intuition becomes obsession. When inner knowing is no longer a gift but a dictatorship, the mind begins feeding on itself, self-referential, self-affirming, a psychic loop that no longer differentiates between insight and hallucination. It's not madness in the clinical sense. It's mythological madness, archetypal possession, a sacred gift turned inside out. But it doesn't have to be this way. There is a path. Narrow, yes, but it exists. The seer must do what is hardest for them, create, not escape into thought, but pull thought into form, into art, into writing, into music, into movement, whatever shape their vision demands. The act of creation is not indulgence, it is necessity. Expression becomes the seer's only bridge between vision and sanity. Through creation, the inner becomes shareable, tangible, safe. The symbols that once threatened to consume them become myths that heal others. A dream becomes a novel, a crisis becomes a painting, a premonition becomes a poem, and the seer, once alone in the dark, becomes a guide for others navigating similar shadows. But it doesn't end there. For even in creation, the seer must remember the body. the soil, the now. They must return again and again to the ground, to the breath, to the smell of oranges, to the feel of their own feet in a garden. Because the mind can drift far, and the sky is always tempting. But without gravity, even angels lose direction. There must be rituals, daily acts of grounding, cooking, cleaning, touching the real, feeling the ordinary. These are not chores, they are medicine. They are anchors in a sea of visions. Without them, the seer becomes untethered. But with them, the seer becomes something else entirely, a translator of the unseen, a conduit between worlds, not a prophet screaming in the desert, but a poet planting seeds. The seer doesn't just see what's coming. They midwife it into being, and yet few recognize them, because the seer rarely announces themselves. They are mistaken for loners, misfits, introverts with odd hobbies and strange eyes. People sense something different, but they don't know what. They call them dreamers, or too intense, or deep. They are none of these, and all of these. They are just trying to survive, because carrying that kind of mind, quietly, invisibly, is one of the most difficult things a human can do, but also one of the most necessary. In times of collapse, in times of chaos, in times when the old maps fail and no one knows what comes next, it is the seer who has already been there, in dreams, in symbols, in silence, and if they can stay grounded, if they can survive their own insight, they just might offer us a way forward. Not as leaders, not as heroes, but as lanterns in the fog. So if you are one of them, if this feels like something you've never heard put into words but always felt inside, then know this: you are not broken. You are not too much. You are not imagining it. What you carry is real, but you must give it form. You must root your visions in something that breathes, something that others can hold, not to prove yourself, but to stay alive. The world may not understand your way of knowing, but that doesn't mean it isn't needed. The seer is rare, but the seer is vital, even if they are never seen.